Brooks, which pays an advertising fee to this station.
This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight it's Ask Us Anything night. In addition to being Father's Day, happy Father's Day. Call in your questions on any legal topic, whether it's you've been in a car accident or you want to know about dog bites or family arguments, trouble with the neighbors, trouble with the city. Call in and be live on the air. The 31 Law Call number is 256-536-0077. Or you can also text us to that same number and have your text read on the air, and we can answer it that way. You can also email a legal question on any legal topic any day of the week. Send it to lawcall@waytv.com. And when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some out. We've got some of your email questions for us tonight. We've also got Michael Timberlake and Bobby Marsh from Timberlake, Lee & Brooks. Good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy
You're
Father's
a dog father. We were talking about this before.
I'm a dog dad.
It counts.
Yeah,
It counts.
So we
Happy
got
Father's Day.
Heath Brooks that was on the Atlantic coast, and Will's on the Atlantic coast, and William Missouri's in West Virginia with his kids. They're all being good dads today. So I brought Bobby, so I don't have to really, hopefully I don't have to answer any questions.
Yeah, we'll just hand it over. We look forward to your calls and questions tonight. We didn't get to be with you last week because the Stanley Cup was happening, but what we were going to talk about was that you guys had a big watch party for the soccer.
Yeah, we did.
And it was
so
great.
Our firm's big involved in the soccer community in Huntsville, and we really enjoyed doing it. And so we had a block party in front of our office for the soccer event. And so we ended up with a good time here. Everybody's out, having a good time, enjoying the party. And,
you had a big crowd.
Yeah, it was a big crowd. So we enjoyed doing it, and we had a, we had a large crowd out for the event, and we wanted to see. It's great to see the soccer community out there doing their thing.
Perfect night. What street is that? Because
so
that's
this
right
is like
downtown.
right in front of our office on Holmes, right between the Avenue and our office and Melt. So, yeah.
Nice party. Everybody having a good time out there.
Yeah.
And hearing so many good things from the World Cup, with teams touring around parts of the country, and they go to small areas of the United States, and they say, people are so friendly, we had such a good time, and
we had a huge crowd, right in front of our office, and the United States showed out and won big, so it was a good time. We really enjoyed it, and we appreciate the whole community coming out to support the soccer team.
Thanks for putting that on.
And just the energy of the event too. I mean, seeing everybody get excited, wonderful time.
So call in your questions tonight, the 31 Law Call number 536-0077. We had already gotten in a couple of text questions that we wanted to talk about. One was related to animals. So when we talk about medical malpractice cases, are animals and vets, are vets held to the same kind of standards? And if an animal is killed in an accident, on a road accident, can you bring the same kind of lawsuits for your pets that you can for humans?
It's yes and no. I mean, basically, you still have the same type of situation where you can show that a medical professional, veterinary professional didn't do what they were supposed to do in the situation, and you can make a claim against them.
Okay.
But the damages for animals in Alabama is very limited. Our common law only allows you to get the fair market value of the animal, which doesn't attach to sentimental value or anything like that. Now, if it's a horse race, if it's a racehorse, that can be a different story.
That could definitely be a different story. So, unlike a pet animal or something like that, a horse has its own essentially market value, if you will, because those things, there's different ways they can make money, earn money. There's also different liability for horse owners, believe it or not.
Okay.
So, if you have livestock on your farm or on your land, it may be important to know that if your livestock gets out in the road and causes a wreck or causes an injury, the only way you can hold a landowner liable for that is if you can prove that they willingly and knowingly knew that animal was in the roadway. So it limits the damages, believe it or not,
That
in a
sounds
car
hard to
wreck
prove.
situation.
Yeah,
But-
it's really hard to prove. So farmers have a lot of protection in that kind of situation.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Good. We've got callers waiting. We've got Lucinda on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Lucinda. Thanks for calling and watching tonight. What's your question?
Yes, I called in because I was living in a hotel, and I complained about them putting dirty linens, and I took pictures of the dirty linens, and I got bed bug bites on me.
Oh, no.
And so the following week, the lady would not renew my room, the manager. She told me I had to leave. And I said, well, I've been living here for a month and everything. She said, well, I just want you gone because my people don't speak English. And I said, well, if they don't speak English, how are they serving the public and everything? And I'm paying every week. I don't want someone else's blood on my bed linen and everything.
Is there something?
So,
it's not it's not like a regular rental, right?
Right,
Of
right.
a regular apartment. It's a little different.
Sure, sure. So when you rent a hotel, you rent your or motel room, hotel room, whatever, for one night, week, whatever you got. You excuse me.
Bless you.
It's coming
Bless you.
again.
I'm a 3 sneezer, so we're getting off lucky.
I usually am a 3, so I feel like I missed one there. So you've got, the hotel has an obligation to maintain the property in a reasonable and safe condition, which means they've got to do things to make it safe, right? And we've had cases with bug beds, bed bugs before, and have collected against hotels for injuries involving bed bugs. But at some point, there was an epidemic of bed bugs, and it was really to the point where no reasonable amount of care could prevent this from happening. And so that got into a little bit of an issue. But in general, if you're you're doing business with somebody, they can deny they can just say, hey, I don't want to do business with you anymore.
Oh, wow.
Now there's some protections in certain situations, but they can basically say, look, I just decide I don't want to do business with you anymore.
If you had an apartment lease or something, that's like a long-term contract. That's
correct.
That's probably different.
Right. And if it's a they can't discriminate against you based upon your race, sex, religion, national origin, things like that. But they can just basically say, I don't want to do business with you anymore.
Okay. We got a text question in. Somebody who's watching says, I've got a workman's comp issue and I'm not satisfied with the doctor they assigned me. Am I able to change? And are we do we pay for the doctor's appointment and the treatment? So workman's comp, walk us through. If you're not satisfied with the doctor, who probably is chosen because they're favorable to the employer, right?
Right. Absolutely.
What do you do?
So what do you do?
So there is a way you can appeal the doctor selection. As we're all well aware, and as many of you know at home, under the workers' comp system, your medical care is through your employer. They have a lot of control over which providers you go to. Now, there is a way that you can appeal it to a panel of 3, we call it, to get another opinion from a different doctor. Those doctors as well are chosen by the employer. But it is a way for you to get a second opinion if you're not satisfied.
Yeah, so and the most important thing is if you're not satisfied with your doctor and you pick a panel, and they provide 4 doctors from when you choose from so that you can make it, get your second opinion, but you only get one shot at that.
Okay.
So really what we tell people and caution people is, look, hold that card until you really need it. If hold that card until you get in a situation where you've got a doctor, that says surgery may or may not be necessary, or that the one doctor just says nope, this is not work related. You can get another doctor to at least look at the situation. So you can find another doctor. There's still going to be 4 doctors that are provided by the insurance company, but out of those 4, typically we can find one that's objective and fair.
Okay. We've got Nancy on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Hi, Sharon.
Hey.
Are you there?
We are. What's your question? Thanks for calling in tonight, Nancy.
Okay, my question is this. I have a problem. My credit report has been affected by a mix-up in the billing between my insurance, my doctor, and the imaging center with the hospital.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to figure, how do I go about getting this thing straightened out? I've talked to what the problem is I'm 83 and my husband is a retiree from the Arsenal. He has Alzheimer's. Okay. And we don't use the same last name. And I am his dependent. Our insurance card only carried his name. But my appointments were all with my name and the card was presented, and I explained it to each one. And so when I got in to get the imaging, I was told I had nasal cancer and that I had to have it scanned.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I went in. And they had 6 weeks to get the information in and get me scheduled and get all the things approved. Well, I showed up and it was not ready. They said, they hadn't heard from my insurance. Well, my insurance had they had refused it because I didn't have an account. He had the
It's in a
account.
different
Yeah,
name.
it's a different
Okay.
account, and that can be it can be a real difficult or dicey situation when you're dealing with insurance. Pre-certifications can get revoked. And then insurance companies may just decide, they may delay payment for a certain amount of time, and even if the healthcare provider is under contract or a preferred provider with that insurance company, if they delay payment or the billing is not submitted in a timely fashion, then it can be denied. And really, the only way to do it is to kind of work through all the parties, the insurance company, the provider, and then the credit reporting company. But obviously we tell everybody, so look, if you're getting billing information, you need to get it before it gets to a collection agency. And if it gets to a collection agency, then the lights need to go off. They're going to send you notifications. They're going to do things. You need to contact them, reach out to them, and get that resolved.
Okay, good. We're going to take a quick break. Nancy, we're glad that you're doing better. You sound better.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy.
We will be right back answering more of your questions tonight.
Pays an advertising fee to this station.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, the Tennessee Valley's only live legal call-in show for 30 years and counting. Presented by the award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm Timberlake, League & Brooks, featuring the knowledge and experience of attorney Michael Timberlake, attorney Will League, attorney Heath Brooks, attorney William Meservey, attorney Bobby Marsh, and hosted by family law attorney Sharon Doviet. Your rights, your calls, live. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. Tonight it's Ask Us Anything night, and we've got callers waiting. Ken is on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Ken. Thanks for calling in. What's your question tonight?
Good evening, everyone. My question, I'll make it fast. I don't know if you're familiar with the case in Mississippi where the infant was killed by the police officer. My question is this. I think I know where the police are going to go with this. They're going to try to say that the vehicle was used as a deadly weapon, like the Renee Good case. But here's my question. The mother holding the child up in the passenger seat, can she be charged with endangerment of a child by using the child as a shield? And can the driver be charged if the vehicle's moving forward and the police officer feared for his life? Or could the police officer be charged for involuntary manslaughter or reckless endangerment? I'll let you answer.
Yeah, I mean,
And I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I'm not familiar with the facts necessarily in this case, but in general, kind of what you're looking at in terms of police officer misconduct. If a police officer is, reasonably feels like they're in danger, then they have ability to respond with force and even deadly force. And that was there was a big, high-profile case in Huntsville that kind of outlined that. Most states have similar laws. If the officer does something that's reckless and or indifferent to the protocols and in terms of what they should be doing, then they can be liable under federal law or potentially state law, but there is a large amount of discretionary immunity that attaches to police officers in that situation. So you're going to get into that. Then you've got the deal with the mother and the child. There's parental immunity. Typically, parents can't be held civilly responsible for the injury to their child.
Like if they're drunk driving and their child's in the car?
Correct.
They're immune. They're
Well,
immune from potentially hurting.
there's some parental immunity.
Wow.
Now, if it's a reckless, if it's a child endangerment, it's a little bit different story. They can be charged with a crime, but without knowing the facts, it's hard for us to really give you a fair commentary.
Interesting one, Ken. We got in a text question. Somebody says that they and 3 other family members were in a head-on collision in Morgan County. The other driver that caused the accident is 15 years old, no driver's license, no insurance on the car. There's a lot of medical expenses. How will they recover? Can you recover if somebody's uninsured, 15 years old, you don't even have a license? Can you do something with that?
What can we do about that?
Well, you could possibly look at, maybe a negligent entrustment situation, but like Michael said, generally a parent is also immune from any liability from the actions of their kid. So if the kid is able to argue or the parents are able to say, hey, we didn't know he was driving, that may present an issue for us. But there are other ways to make a recovery. You can go after your own insurance company, for example, in the event that they don't have insurance. You could also, look at different coverages that you may have that could help compensate you for your medical bills. But, that's one thing you'd want to run to ground immediately is just figure out who the parties are that's involved, what responsibility everybody has, and that kind of help ferry out what the options are.
Yeah, so you got a 15-year-old that's driving. I assume there wasn't wasn't a parent in the car with him.
Doesn't say.
So the question, first person you look at is, whose car was it?
Yeah.
How did he get this car? If he's 15, he's presumed to be an incompetent under Alabama law, which means he can't drive by himself. And if somebody gave him a car under that situation, then they can be responsible. Tracking down whether that person has insurance, if there's no insurance on the vehicle, is a little bit more difficult, but it's certainly worth running to ground if you're injured.
Okay. We got in an email question. Let me give you that one. This one from Greg. Greg had written in, my wife was coming home from work on Friday. Traffic abruptly stopped in the next lane. A woman in that lane slammed on her brakes and swerved into my wife. She said the sun was in her eyes. Still waiting on an estimate, but we have the same insurance company as her. Is that good or bad for us? Is having the same insurance company as the other person that caused the wreck, does that help you or hurt you?
Well, so the first thing is this, is just because the sun's in your eyes, it doesn't mean that you don't have to operate your motor vehicle in a reasonably safe manner. It's not really an excuse, under very rare circumstance would that be an excuse. Now, is it a big deal if they're insured by we call that a double with?
Do you like it or do you not? As personal injury attorneys, do you like that, or you think we're not going to win anything out of this?
No, don't think that at all.
Okay.
Believe it or not, we do like it, and here's why. So even if you're dealing with the same insurance company, the claim is handled as though the insureds, so to speak, are represented by different companies. So even if both of you have the same, it'll be handled totally and separate apart from each other, meaning, you know, the adjuster on your claim, if you're making a claim for, as we've talked about on here, uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, that'll be a totally different adjuster than the one handling your liability claim against the other vehicle. There's also some intricacies once you get a case resolved with, you know, uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage and the rights that an insurance company has at that point in the claim. But, you know, essentially they operate as though it's two separate companies going after each other.
Yeah, so it's not a bad thing. People get worried about it and nervous about it because it is unusual. Or it feels unusual, but it's really not a big deal.
A double width?
Double width.
A double width. Okay. We got in this text question, must you tell an officer you have a weapon in the car if he asks?
Yeah, I would think so. You know, I mean...
you sure don't want to have him tell him no and he asks you to step out of the car, which he has a right to do, right, to check around the immediate area, and he finds something.
You know, I honestly cannot give you the absolute answer to that question, but I think more than likely you're better off talking to an officer, being you know, polite and telling them the truth, and you want to make sure that gun's registered.
Okay. Got an email question from Brandon. Brandon said, I parked on the side of my street, and there was a large company truck parked right in front of me. When I came back, the truck was gone, but my front bumper had been knocked off and the right headlight was broken. I believe he must have backed into my car as he was leaving. Now, how do I prove that? I can't afford to get this fixed, and I didn't do anything wrong. Can you prove it? I mean, that sounds very obvious. Truck is now gone. Bumpers messed up, headlights broken. That sounds like they caused it.
Right.
Does that prove it?
We run into this all the time. You know, what we say is, look, there's a lot of situations where we feel like we know what happens, but we have to have evidence to prove it, and we have to have evidence that's of sufficient quantity or quality to convince a jury that we're right about that situation. That's kind of the standard that you got. Yeah. And, you know, this situation, what do you do, man?
I would look for any and every piece of evidence available. I'd look for Ring doorbell camera footage.
Yeah, a lot of cameras.
You know, try to track down the truck if you remember where it came from. I mean, anything you can do, like Michael said, to strengthen your claim will help you in this situation. You know, in the event you're unable to prove, hey, it was that truck, you may be able to file a claim with your own insurance company under a collision policy or something to that effect, where, you know, they'd hopefully help you repair your car. But, you know, without that evidence, like Michael said, that's a really tough case to prove, even if we may have a pretty strong hunch of what happened.
Right. And, you know, like, even if it's somebody else's fault and you can't prove it, if you have collision coverage with your policy, you'll have to pay your deductible and then they'll repair your vehicle.
So many people have cameras, though. There are so many Ring cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Your work has changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
There's so many more cell phones,
it's
cameras.
hugely beneficial in terms of what we've done. You know, I had a case one time where somebody's trying to make a claim for a trailer that they had hit, and basically, you know, they argued that it was parked on the wrong side of the road, and I was able to prove that the driver that hit the trailer didn't have their lights on because I had Ring cameras.
Ring cameras. Yeah. Talk to your neighbors. Okay. Text in, my aunt is in a nursing home and I went to see her today. She had scratches on her neck that the nurse put there. Okay, how do we know that?
Right.
But is that abuse? Well,
I mean, it's clearly not appropriate, and it's something that you would you want to be concerned about. I talked with the administration, the director of nursing at the nursing home, feel like that, you know, you think this is inappropriate. I would expect that the nurse would deny that it was anything that they did wrong. Sometimes, you know, older folks can get scratches without a whole lot of you know, pressure, things like that. So they're gonna, you know, there's a lot of, you know, back and forth here that you're dealing with. But if you really have a problem with a nursing home or assisted living facility in Alabama, you can call the Alabama Department of Public Health, make a complaint. They will come up, do an investigation, make sure that your loved one's safe in that home.
In the last few seconds, somebody texted in saying they had surgery and the stitches burst open. Is that a medical malpractice thing? Would you sue over that?
You know, it's what we would call a known or common complication of any kind of surgical procedure. This is something that can happen even if the doctor does everything right.
Okay.
It can happen with negligence, but you know, a lot of times you're just dealing with something that is a known or common complication or risk of a procedure, and those are very difficult to prove that it's malpractice under Alabama law.
Okay. We'll take a break. Be right back answering more of your questions tonight. to get in touch with Michael Timberlake and Bobby Marsh with Timberlake League and Brooks. So they do personal injury cases, everything from car accidents, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence. 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
Yeah, and Sharon does family law here in North Alabama, child custody, divorce, child support modification, that type of thing. 256-539-7337 or SharonFamilyLaw.com.
I wanted to leave you with some of the watch party videos. So the World Cup is not over.
It's not over.
Still going.
It's still going. We have a great time doing this, and we'll be out, for other games. We hope, and getting the community out and excited for a little USA soccer.
You can't do one for the last game, can you? For the last match?
It just depends. The question is,
fun.
will the United States advance?
Okay.
So the next game that the United States is playing in for sure is there'll be one more group stage game, and then there's a game on July 1st.
Okay.
If they win that game, then they will advance on from there.
If we're going to have another party, you'll tell us.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll let you know.
Thanks for all your questions. We'll see you next week.